What is going on, guys? You're back with me, Neff, for another broadcast of The Weekly. Let's jump right into it. The first article we have here today, The Last of Us Season 2 gets discouraging release update official. Fans may be kept waiting a bit longer for The Last of Us Season 2 after the latest discouraging release update. But when will it come to HBO? Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey's The Last of Us was renewed for Season 2 just weeks into the first outing in January 2023, with plans to adapt Naughty Dog's sequel video game, but regardless, that won't be the end for The Last of Us, as Part 2 is expected to be adapted across multiple seasons. During the Warner Bros. Discovery Q4 2023 earnings call via Seeking Alpha, CEO David Zaslav offered a discouraging update on the long-awaited release date of The Last of Us Season 2. Zaslav revealed HBO will kick off the year in 2025 with The White Lotus Season 2 to be followed by new outings of The Last of Us and Euphoria. This is a quote. Then in 2025, we'll kick off the year with the new season of The White Lotus, followed by The Last of Us and Euphoria, just to name a few. So that's a pretty interesting update. I know a lot of people are fans of The Last of Us. They said they really liked the video game, and they really did like the show. They said the show was really, really well done. I've been told that I should watch it. I do have Max, so I think I will give it a shot eventually. I know Season 2... I think people are going to be excited about it, but I think the one snag about that is that I don't think a lot of people like the video game portion of that, I guess, that story. What I'm saying is people didn't like the second video game as much as they liked the first game. So I'm wondering how that's going to work out. I think they may change some things to better adapt to live action for Season 2, and I think that could actually really help I guess, people's perception of the video game, and I think that would actually make people go play the video game and actually appreciate it more. Like I said, there's a lot of fans of this series. I'm actually interested to see when they do see Season 2 or when they do announce it, honestly. The reason I'm saying that mostly is because the first season was a hit. So we've talked about this before with good product. You know, you want to be able to continue that. You don't want people to forget about it. You don't want it to be one of those things where the hype dies down for it. I think while they do have Season 1 kind of in a good place, while people really like hold that season to a high standard, I think now is the time to really knock it out the park with Season 2 and try to get it out there as soon as possible. It might not have to be this year, but I think once you get into 2025 territory, if you're not seeing The Last of Us come out around then, people are going to be like scratching their heads as to say, you know, what's really going on behind the scenes? Is it a budget thing? Is it a creative thing? Are they trying to do new stories to keep people engaged? But I think it's going to work out for them. Sometimes too, if there is a long-awaited release date for a hyped season of any show, that actually does help certain shows. Like I said, Season 1 was good. People really like Season 1. I think they're going to like Season 2. And I think this is their opportunity to actually change people's perception of the video game, that Part 2 of Last of Us. So I'm really interested in that. Let's go to the next article. This one was really interesting. This is from CBR. James Gunn addresses massive Superman Legacy budget rumors. There are multiple rumors about the upcoming Superman Legacy, and one of them includes its allegedly massive budget. James Gunn has just addressed the rumors that the highly anticipated Superman Legacy has a huge budget. Let's see what we got. Read a little more. Responding to a fan question who quoted the budget as $364 million, the director cleared the claims. Absolutely not. Gunn replied with a laughing emoji. He continued, "How in the world do they think they know what our budget is?" Interesting. Superman Legacy is one of the most highly anticipated reboots in the superhero world, but those figures would have put it among the most expensive superhero films of all time. Generally, the budget for superhero films is between $150 million and $200 million. Aside from their marketing budget, one of the most expensive superhero films was 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron, with an estimated budget of between $450 and $495 million. Wow. I'll just leave it there. Yeah, $300 million for a movie that might not do well, that's ridiculous. I think you could do a decent Superman movie for $200 million, maybe $250 million most. And it will be well grounded, and I think people will respect that. And also, like I've said before, guys, when your budgets are huge like this, we're not even accounting for the marketing of this thing. If the movie's going to cost you about $350 million, the marketing's going to cost you at least $200 million. At the end of the day, you're looking at a $550 million movie, and it's going to have to do 3X. Now, based off the direction DC has been going in, it hasn't been going well for them. I would say they're in worse position than Marvel is. They basically blew up the DCEU. They got James Gunn in charge. Now he's trying to reboot everything, which is quite a task, I must say. You have Batman, the standalone with Robert Pattinson, but they call that Elseworld. So, at this point, it's a complete rebuild. I don't think people are so high on DC films right now. I don't know if that budget is $360 million. I've heard different things that say the budget is $360 million. They found this through tax information and things like that went through Warner Brothers, so I think that's a bit interesting. But yeah, they need to keep this movie at a tame budget. $360 million, that's way too much. Superman, a big superhero. I'd say Batman at this point's more popular than Superman. You're going to have to reboot Superman. There's a lot of weight on their shoulders here, and I think the $300 million budget, $360 million budget is too much pressure. If they can bring that thing down to 200, 250, make a good movie, the movie has to perform, because at the end of the day, guys, we know this is a business. I've heard people as well say, well, the movie just has to be good, but it doesn't have to perform. I don't believe that. The movie has to do both. They need to bring that budget down to 250, make a good movie, get people excited about DC again, and then try to expand and expound upon that idea. If they can't do it with this Superman movie, they're going to have some, basically they're going to have a tough road ahead. That's what I'll say about that. But I thought that article was hilarious. $360 million for a superhero movie. And funny enough, that had some good information in it. I did not know Age of Ultron cost $400 million. But you know what? This is the difference. They put that money up, Marvel did, put that money up for a movie that people really liked. It was a good movie. It knocked it out the park. I believe Age of Ultron did over $1 billion, maybe 1.6. So it really did work out for them. It might have done more than that. I have to do some research on that. But yeah, Superman, James Gunn, $360 million budget, allegedly. That's crazy. Next article, one I'm excited for as well. This is from The Direct. And by the way, as I've said before, guys, all these articles are going to be in the description for you. Dune 3 gets frustrating release update from director. Interesting. Dune Part 2 is expected to be one of the biggest films of 2023, and even though many are already looking ahead to Dune 3, director Denis Villeneuve just gave a disappointing update on the potential threequels release. Villeneuve's first Dune was generally well-liked by audiences when it was released, and if moviegoers like its sequel, Dune Part 2, as much as critics do, it could be a generational film. Let's read a little more. Villeneuve already expressed his desire to make a third installment in his adaptation of Frank Herbert's novels and also where he would like to take it. But seeing as how it is still quite far off, there are still many questions surrounding its release. Dune 3 may release later than fans hope. Interesting. This is my thing. I saw Dune Part 2 yesterday. Great movie. Popcorn Square. We're going to have a full-on discussion about it, and we're going to review it in detail. As far as Dune 3 goes, from the information I've seen and what I've gathered, first two parts of the movie, and when I say the movie, I mean the trilogy. The first two parts cover the first book. Kind of touch the second book, but not too much. So, the focus really of this trilogy is going to be the first book and the second book. The next book covers the events of Dune Messiah. So, Part 3 is going to be covering Dune Messiah, more than likely. I think it's a little early to be talking to the director about this. I know they finished shooting Dune 2 probably a year and a half ago, and this thing's been in post-production, and now it's finally out after a few pushbacks. I think the strike really had an effect on that. But, maybe he's trying to figure out how to circle the wagons for Dune 3. They have to wait and see how Dune 2 is going to perform before they can get the green light on that. I know after the first movie, there was a lot of pressure on them to see if they would get greenlit for Dune 2 because it had a simultaneous release on Max. It's at Max now, but it was HBO Max. The first Dune came out theatrically and it came out on HBO Max. So, the box office was kind of hindered by that, but they did get the green light to do the second film. Now the second film is just being released theatrically for, I believe, a window of 45 days. So I think based off those numbers, when they get those back, they'll go to the drawing board and they'll say, okay, we're going to green light this thing. And then once they green light this thing, the director will be able to speak more on that. To be asking the director when Dune 3 is going to be coming out, he doesn't have that information yet, even though he is the director. He's not an executive. They have to green light that. And then once they green light that, then he can go back to the drawing board and he'll have an answer, I'm sure, down the line. Dune 1 came out 2021, I believe. It's 2024. Dune 2 has just released. So I'm going to speculate that Dune 3 will probably release sometime in 2027. 3-year gap in between makes sense. You need time to film. You need to do it the correct way. Dune is a very detailed story. As Kage says, very dense story. So you need time to really figure out how you're going to do this and how you're going to tackle Messiah. Now, Messiah is only 256 pages. I believe it's the shortest book in the Dune series out of 6 books, I believe. So, but there's still a lot of details within that as well. And, you want to do it the right way. So, yeah, to be asking Dennis right now, when the movie's coming out, he doesn't have the information to be speaking on that at this point in time. Once the film gets greenlit, they start working on it production-wise. He knows how he works as a director. He knows when the film will be done. He knows how post-production works. He'll be able to talk about that more, and I'm sure that'd be part of a marketing campaign for Dune 3. But awesome. We're going to talk about Dune, like I said. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. Great movie. Probably the most anticipated movie of the year for us at Popcorn Square. But yeah, great movie. And we'll talk about that later. I'm going to continue with Dune talk. Next article, Dune 2's massive budget sets historic milestone for director. It's official, Dune 2 has already set a new financial record for director Denis Villeneuve before it even hits theaters. The stakes are high for Dune Part 2, with Warner Brothers having delayed the movie out of 2023, as I just spoke on, for its star-studded cast to properly promote it. It was originally scheduled to be released during the Hollywood actors' strike. Let's read some more into this, see if we get some numbers on here. Considering the potential, this appears to have been a shrewd move by Warner Brothers, which has now poured money into the marketing campaign, which includes some Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Florence Pugh, and Austin Butler promoting the film nonstop. What's the most expensive Denis Villeneuve movie? Dune Part 2, reportedly via Variety, has a budget of $190 million, making it the most expensive movie ever by the director. We talked about this director. Did The Arrival, did Blade Runner 2049, did Dune Part 1, Dune Part 2. Funny enough, it might be his most expensive, but it's not the most expensive. Guys, we just talked about how Superman has a alleged budget of $360+ million. Dune, the way this movie looks for it to be made on $190 million is amazing. I've talked about certain films being able to tape the budget and really make it look like it's bigger than it is on screen. The Creator being one of those films, but I must say, $190 million, the way Dune looks, you would think that movie is $250 million, $270 million. I've seen movies with $80 million budgets more than Dune Part 2 look like complete dog mess. So I think they've really figured out how to get a decent-sized budget now. It is expensive, but a decent-sized budget, take it, make it look like 2x that, and then really project it out to the audience and get results out of that. This is awesome. The budget is very tame, in my opinion, for the way the film looks. Like I said, guys, go watch the film if you haven't. I believe the first Dune cost $165 million, so, they added a few more things. I believe the runtime on Dune Part 2 is longer than Dune Part 1, so that makes sense as well. That is an expense. That's extra filming, extra work, But, yeah, and the cast as well. They've expounded on the cast. You got Christopher Walken. You got Austin Butler. you got a bunch of other people in there. And so, that costs money as well. So for them to only, juice this budget $25 million more than the first film, that's amazing. And also, too, I think this movie is going to do better than the first film as well. I think word of mouth is really going to help this film. But yeah, $190 million for this movie, I wouldn't say it's bad at all, especially when you look at the aesthetics that they're using and just the visual the visual experience that you're getting in this film. $190 million is tame in my opinion. And it's his most expensive endeavor yet. So, he focuses on sci-fi right now in his career. Denis Villeneuve is doing that. So I think for him to be able to make a movie like this for $190 million is quite an accomplishment, especially the way it looks, as I said. Anyway, guys, link to that article is going to be in the description as well as the other articles. I'm going to leave it there for this broadcast of the weekly. I believe it's weekly number 10, which is awesome. Guys, please like, subscribe, comment, engage with the video. We need that. Helps us out with the algorithm with YouTube. Please keep watching the Popcorn Square podcast on Mondays and Fridays, and I will be back for another broadcast of the weekly very soon. This is Neff signing off. Be safe.